Welcome once again to the Retirement Blueprint Show with Tim Lofton of Axim Planning and Wealth. I'm Spike Spangle, and we are going to be talking about the state of retirement in America and what it means to you, our viewers. There's a lot of reports out there right now saying that we need a lot more than $1 million to be able to retire comfortably. Is that number 1.5? Is that 2 million? And what is happening actually with some of the reports on retirement financial literacy? We're going to talk about all that and more and what you can do about it throughout today's program. Mr. Tim Lofton, what is on your mind this week?
Well, I'm excited to talk a little bit about financial literacy. And, you know, it's funny, you say financial literacy, and I'm sure right now people's heads are kind of spinning. You know, is he going to talk about how to balance a checkbook or, you know, just how to set a budget? Why don't talk about what America knows? Like how they're doing when it comes to things like Social Security and Medicare, annuities, income planning, all of those things. There's a test out there we're going to talk about on this episode.
There was a new report that came out recently, and so on the financial literacy, they were actually focusing on retirement financial literacy and how much people knew. Unfortunately, 62% of folks failed the exam. And then they did something fun with it as well. They gave it to one of these AI sources. What happened there?
Yeah, so they took the test and put it into ChatGPT. It's a leading artificial intelligence program. And what was really interesting is that this same program passed the bar exam. It passed the CPA exam. So, you know, we're thinking, hey, this thing's going to get like a 90% or something on this test. And it did not. They were in the 40s. And so, you know, where does that leave us? Like, if we don't know as an American how to retire, and the all-knowing internet where we get all of our information doesn't know what to do, where does that leave us?
Right. And, well, here's an interesting perspective on that study, though. I looked at it as well. Thank you for sending it to me. It's that a lot of answers are subjective. So this is why you have talked so much about getting to know people before you talk about the dollars and cents, the ups and downs of the market and what's happening. It's like, first, who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? What do we want the money to do? I always love how you say we've got to give jobs to the money. Is this long-term money? Is this short-term money? So it's that these questions and answers to them are so subjective. They're so individualized. So you can't, the retirement blueprint is a system, but it's not a cookie-cutter approach.
Right, and I think that's, you know, we look for easy solutions in America. Can I take a pill to make that better? Can I, you know, what is the easy way out of this? And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, when it comes to retirement planning, it's unbelievably personalized. It has to be custom. There's no booklet for us to send somebody and say, hey, if you follow these steps, everything's going to be okay, because everybody is different. You have a different family dynamic, maybe a second marriage. Is there kids? Is there no kids? You know, what is it that makes you tick? And then developing a plan around making sure it can support that.
Yeah. Another thing that came from this report that you had shared with us was that over 60% of people as well over the age of 50 have not spoken to a financial professional, specifically about retirement planning as well. I almost want to say that's like being over 50 years old and never having been to a doctor.
Right.
I mean, if this is not what you focus on every single day, and you're trying to figure out, have you saved enough? How do I turn that into income? Isn't it time to sit down with somebody?
It absolutely is. And, you know, everybody gets there when they get there. And, you know, we talk to people every day that come in and say, man, we should have done this 5 years ago. We should have done this 10 years ago. Here's what I know, Spike. Do it now. Don't worry about what you should have done. Take action. Do it now. If you don't have a plan, if you have more questions than answers, pick up the phone and give us a call. Sit down with us. Let us take a look at where you're trying to go and build a plan that'll get you there, that'll allow you to retire and stay retired.
One of the things that we talk about is inflation. We've obviously had to discuss that a lot over the last couple of years. But another thing from this report, it said that over 35% of people over the age of 50 said that the reason they haven't reached out to a financial professional is because they're afraid it's too high in cost. Again, I always like to pressure you. What is your high inflationary price for someone calling the phone number and coming and sitting and talking to you?
Well, the good news is that to sit down with us is complimentary. And so we've removed the barrier for somebody saying exactly that, because listen, you don't know us, we don't know you, we don't know if we're a fit, and you don't know if we're a fit. The only way to figure that out is for us to sit down, let us show you what we do, take you through our process, complimentary, and then they have a choice, right? They can look at it and say, this is exactly what I was looking for, or not. Or maybe you're in that 10% that we meet with where you're good doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, but the resources that we have are here for you. Few of them right now. Down on the bottom of the screen, you can call the phone number. You can come in, schedule an appointment. You'll sit down with the team here of Axum Planning and Wealth and Tim Lofton. He designed the retirement blueprint himself. Now, I'm going to throw it back to Tim over here. Exactly what are the parts of the retirement blueprint? I can obviously imagine investments and income, but what else? Is it just about the accumulation like your 401k?
Yeah, that's a great question, Spike. And a lot of people think about their retirement savings as the plan. You know, they've saved, they're going to take money out in retirement and it's all going to be fine, but there's so much more to it than that. We have what are called the 5 cornerstones of retirement. It starts with an income plan. I have to know where the money's coming from. I need to understand, how do I turn on an income flow that I can't run out of? I also need to understand the tax consequence for getting that income. So I have to have a tax plan. Then when I'm looking at it from a retiree standpoint, things like Social Security claiming strategy. When's the best time for me and my spouse to claim that Social Security? Pension claiming strategy. Looking at things in the world of long-term care, Medicare, and then most importantly, making sure that it's all wrapped with an estate plan to protect you and the ones you love, to make sure that you have a plan in place that's going to give what you want to who you want, when you want, the way you want, with the least amount of fees possible.
I'm not going to have you repeat it, but I love when you say that one. Who you want, where you want, when you want, the way that you want it to. That's what estate planning is about. Folks, you can get started on your own, no cost, retirement blueprint, very simply by calling the phone number, or you can open up your phone to the camera function and point it down here at this QR code. It'll take you over to the website. You can schedule your appointment right there. But what exactly is the retirement blueprint? Why did Tim put it together? Stay tuned for this following message from Tim and the team here about the philosophy of what we do at Axum Planning and Wealth.
My most rewarding moment for helping clients is seeing the fear of the unknown disappear from their face. You know, some people are worried about a potential nursing home stay. Some, it's market volatility and losing their money in their investment. Some are just genuinely concerned about the direction of the economy. But for the most part, the whole taking away of fear and concern starts with having a plan. Not something off the shelf, but something customized to that family, where we can sit down and get to know them intimately, to understand what their hopes and dreams are. What do they want to have happen after they're gone? And make sure that those things happen. The retirement blueprint is exactly that. It's a blueprint for retirement. It's built off of the 5 cornerstones of retirement planning. It's developing an income plan, creating a tax plan, an estate plan, a long-term care and health care plan, and of course, the investment plan. And the best part is we have a team of people to come alongside to do all of those things, that have the credentials and the expertise and the years of experience to make sure that everyone is coming together to create the best plan. It takes those worries out of their head and puts solutions down on paper.
Thank you for watching that message from Tim Lofton of Axum Planning and Wealth. He's the creator of the retirement blueprint itself. And we're talking about the state of retirement today in America. Actually, we're going to be doing this all throughout this month.
Yeah.
We're going to be recording several shows on this. And one of the reasons why is because so many people are failing these retirement financial literacy quizzes. People over the age of 50 being asked some simple questions like, how long is your money going to last? When is the best time for you to take your Social Security? But again, let's give people the baseline. So they asked this actual same survey to ChatGPT, and how did it do?
Well, ChatGPT ended up not doing too well, which is interesting because you know, if you think about, you know, our number one source, if I ask somebody a question and they don't know the answer, their first instinct is, well, I'll Google it, I'll pull it up on the internet. And so this is really bringing to light something I think we all are aware of, that the internet doesn't always get it right. And, you know, depending on the algorithm and what's going on there, you know, you could get an answer that's different than my answer, even though you and I Googled the same thing. It just makes sense when you look at the second time that ChatGPT took this test,
Right.
and they basically took information that we would have as planners and put it into the system, and it did just fine. It got like a 90% or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, they took 3 retirement planning specific books, input that in, and said,
Right.
now base your answers on this.
Right.
But it still wasn't 100%. And it goes back to the concept that these answers can be very, very subjective. So, how do you tiptoe through the minefield of being subjective for prospective families who come in? How do you say, in my opinion, this is what's going to work for you? Is it coming down to the definitions of money? Is it more about their lifestyle, or just through the experience of helping so many people?
Well, I mean, obviously the experience of doing this for 30 years certainly weighs into to making it easier for me, I guess. But you know, everybody coming in our door is dealing with something that their parents and grandparents didn't have to deal with. You know, there's no longer the pension generation. We've moved to this 401k generation, and now they're responsible for everything. They shouldn't know all the answers. Unless they did this for a living, there would be no way to know all the answers. And so we designed a plan that leads us to those solutions. The plan itself tells us where we should go. If you look at it from the jobs to the money, and we talk about this a lot on the show, you know, if the job of the money is income, that defines what that investment should look like, because it can't have volatility. The income has to be guaranteed, and it has to go forever. Once we have that fixed, we can then look at the money that's left over as growth money, where in the past, maybe we read in a book, hey, I'm 65, I should be really conservative, but that's not the job of the money. The job of the money is growth. If I'm 65 years old and I have 30 years left in front of me, that's 30-year money. So my question would be, if you're 65, how would you have invested it at 35? Because it's the same money.
Yeah, and again, going back to what you were saying before, this isn't the same as your grandparents, who
No.
may or may not have had a pension plan. My grandfathers had Army pensions. They had pensions from their companies, but when they passed away, those things didn't roll over then to my grandmothers, who lived into their 90s. This is the quandary we're in, that even with this amount of information, whether it's AI or your accumulation advisor, it's all really subjective. And here's what you really help people out with, is helping them realize how long they might live. Right. When you ask folks that question, they say, all right, how long do you think you're going to live, or how long did your mom and dad? Is it usually somewhere around mid-80s that they want to say, here, let's take the money out to here?
Well, it depends. Every guy thinks they're dying tomorrow, it seems like. We'll talk about tax planning and maybe the impact of that required minimum distribution on IRAs at age 90, and the first thing out of their mouth is, well, Tim, I won't be here. But statistically, if we look at the numbers, between a husband and wife, one of them is likely to be 94. So even if, husband, you're not here, your wife is going to be with this money. So the plan has to be in place for you and for her. Spousal income continuity planning. What do we do if a spouse passes away? I lose a Social Security, I lose a pension. Having that plan in place is essential, and it needs to happen now.
Yeah.
It's not something you want to just wake up to one day and then try and figure it out.
This is something we were talking about one day on our radio show, Retirement Rumors. I want to say this now for the television program. You were saying the spousal continuation on income. A lot of people will think they don't need to worry about as much because, I'm sorry, unless we both pass away at 101 holding hands,
Right.
one of our spouses probably will pass away sooner. And you think, okay, well, now I have this larger bucket of money that I probably won't need to use as much. That might not necessarily be the case.
Right.
We have care. We have everything from house care, lawn care, maybe even driving, moving around. Maybe we get a car service, cleaning services, things to help us out. And then you were saying the tax bracket. So it's not necessarily that all of a sudden we're going to have twice as much money.
Right.
We might have twice as much in costs.
Spike, in 30 years, I will tell you the income need from going from 2 people to 1 person hardly changes at all. I mean,
Wow.
maybe you had 2 cars and you're going to get rid of a car, but everything else that you just mentioned, I'm still paying for heating and cooling. I'm still paying for water. I'm still paying for groceries, which interestingly enough, if a husband passes away, we have seen that a wife still spends the same money at the grocery store for almost a year, because that's what she was used to buying, and that's what she continues to buy. So to have a plan that is built on you having to potentially change your lifestyle if something happens to your spouse is not the kind of plan that we want people to leave our office with.
We were talking about AI here and how it didn't do well on just a retirement planning quiz until there was retirement info actually input into it. So tell me then about your input process. We've all heard that phrase before, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
But this is literally what you do. You take the inputs, you come up with the answers. How have you developed that process? Besides, over time, obviously, you've been doing it for a long time, but.
You know, a lot of people think of the retirement blueprint as really the magic. Honestly, it's the information that goes into creating the retirement blueprint. Our first appointment, when you come into our office, is really us getting to know each other. We are going to ask a huge amount of questions that some you're going to be like, why do you even know that? But it's not just about money. It's not just about taxes. It's about how are you going to spend your retirement? Who are you going to spend it with? How much is that going to cost? We just had a client in this week, and they were considering purchasing a business. It was a family-owned business. And there was 2 or 3 other kids involved, and they were like, I don't know if we want to do this, don't want to do this. And I just asked them, I'm like, at your age, is this how you want to spend your retirement? Do you want to own this business? Or should you just cash out and be done with it? It really is examining how you want to spend your time.
Yeah, and how much were the kids or heirs going to want to be involved in
Right.
this? Were they looking at this as a possible income stream in retirement? And you're like, wait a second, we can create that in a different way, because a lot of people will look at things like rental property. Sure. Again, passive income. That's a huge phrase today, right?
Same conversation. It's a matter of, because it can't be about the money usually. If you look at real estate, if you look at owning the business, at some point in time, if you're looking at this saying, I'm going to get to this age and I'm not going to want to do that anymore, why wait? Why not free up that time now? Because replacing the income is typically pretty easy. The assets are usually there. Mm-hmm. In this case that we're talking about, it had nothing to do with the money. It was literally the enjoyment of doing the business.
Oh, doing something together.
Working with people that come in and just kind of that part, which is fine. And if that is the reason, probably makes sense. If it's a financial reason, it probably doesn't. But again, those are the things that we discover when people come and sit down in the office. We design the plan and we start asking questions. We start, kind of pushing back a little bit on their way of thinking.
Yeah. All right, folks, we want to let you know that you can get started on your own retirement blueprint very simply by calling the phone number below. We have operators standing by right now at our secure call center. They'll schedule an appointment, and you can come in and meet with Tim himself, and you can get your own, no-cost, retirement blueprint. Now, it all depends on the inputs, so we want to help you with that information, but don't be overwhelmed at that first appointment. It's really a conversation. What would you like your retirement to look like? What would you like to do? And maybe we'll start talking about what kinds of assets do you have? What do we have to work with? It's very, very simple. Call the phone number below. In fact, if you'd like to learn more about Tim, don't go anywhere. This following message is about Tim himself. We're going to come back. What number do you need for you to be able to comfortably retire right after this message?
It goes back actually when I was 11 years old. That was the first time I discovered what not having money felt like. I remember being in Sunday school class, and one of the parents came in to let us know that the ski trip, which was kind of a rite of passage at 12, was coming up. And so I got my permission slip, and class got out, and I was that kid. I was like running through the church and up the stairs and weaving in and out of people, and got into the sanctuary, and I looked at the very back of the sanctuary, and I saw my mom, and she was there with 2 or 3 other ladies, and they were talking. And I took off at a dead sprint, and I'm waving this piece of paper and talking a mile a minute, and I get to her, and she's like, wait, honey, what is it that you're saying? And I said, Mom, I said, I can go. Like, I'm going to be 12, I can go. And she's like, go to what? I'm like, the ski trip, the youth group ski trip. And I'll never forget, she got down on one knee and she wrapped her arms around me and she said, baby, she said, we can't afford that this year. And it wasn't the disappointment of not being able to go on the trip. It was the look in her eyes that she couldn't afford it and that she couldn't do that for me. And I really think that that put me on the path of having a heart for helping people get to retirement, to be able to stay retired and to live their best life. And that all starts with advice. And that's what I chose to do for a living.
Welcome back. You're with Tim Lofton here of Axum Planning and Wealth, and he is the creator of the Retirement Blueprint himself. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. We're talking about the state of retirement today. We're going to be doing that all throughout this month. And one of the biggest reasons why, we've heard that number $1 million before. You know, let's shoot for this as a target. But now we're hearing a lot of, in fact, economists and other people in retirement planning saying maybe that number should be 1.5, maybe even 2 million. What do you think? Are we needing to make a bigger target goal?
Well, here's a little side note. So I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she was talking about a couple of friends of hers, and she actually said, she's like, you know, Tim, they're a millionaire. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, like they're a millionaire. I'm like, Mom, I said, you know, being a millionaire today isn't as exciting as it was back then. She's like, I know, but I mean, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, it isn't, it isn't. You know, $1 million is a lot of money if it's enough. If it's not enough, it's not enough, right? Yeah. And so as we're looking at the needs, and this is kind of where the Retirement Blueprint really helps show us exactly what we're going to need in the future, is looking at that income plan, looking at things like guaranteed income source from a pension, from Social Security, and then figuring out what that leftover, that $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million needs to do. Like, what is its responsibility going to be for my retirement?
Right. There's also something I want to clear up on it. Was that $1 million of net worth, or is that $1 million of investable assets? There's a big difference.
There is a big difference.
We know that your home can be 300, 500, 750 of that. If you only have 250, that doesn't make you a real liquid millionaire.
Right, and I think that's exactly right. I mean, today when we think about a millionaire, we're really talking about investable assets. Right, we're talking about the money they have that can move the needle, because our house, while it is an asset, isn't going to help us in retirement other than keeping the rain off our head.
Right. But I think our bigger concern is the goal line being moved in retirement while we're playing the game? Do mid-50-year-olds, do young 60-year-olds, do they have to be worried that the field goal is, the football field is now 150 yards long instead of 100?
Well, it is. It is absolutely changing, and it's happening in real time. We've seen, if you look at the Northwestern Mutual study that just came out, they said there's a 16% gap from last year to this year. I mean, 16%, that's double what we saw in the inflation numbers, which were already scary.
Yeah.
And so, how do you, as a person preparing for retirement, make adjustments?
Make up 16% income
Make up
gap.
16%. It's like you're talking about maybe having to work an extra year just to cover that change. And so it's really important when we're building a plan to make sure that we're taking in things like taxes, like inflation, making sure that the plan is going to get you where you think you're going. Because a lot of times we're headed in the right direction and we get there and we went to the wrong spot.
Yeah. Because
the work that we did on the front end of that, we weren't looking at the map.
And I know that none of us want to live in limit, right? We don't want to be, and I don't think either you or I ever like the word budget. A budget is like a diet, right? Here's what we have to cut out. But do we have to be aware of things like how often our spouse has Amazon boxes delivered to our front door, and how often we're spending? I mean, do we talk about it as what we need to cut out in retirement, or do we try to look at it as a positive spending plan along with the growth strategy of the actual investments?
Well, I think our goal, as we're looking at creating a plan, is making sure that the lifestyle continues. A lot of times when I ask the question, how much do you guys need on a monthly basis, I hear verbiage that sounds something like this. Well, we could get by on, we could survive on. You know, that's not what retirement is about. You didn't just spend 30 or 40 years getting to retirement to survive or get by on. You are looking to thrive in retirement. It's supposed to look exactly the way you envisioned it. And with a plan, that can happen. I will also say without a plan, those decisions can be made for you.
Right. And there's, again, the lines are changing here and there. There's another one that you talk about is legislative risk, the concept that the taxes can change. I mean, we know what our tax brackets are from what just happened a few months ago, but where are they going to be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now? That's the legislative risk.
Well, we
Not
know
just for the state of Ohio, but then it could be your national taxes as well.
For sure. I mean, we're looking at December 31st of 2025, something's going to happen. Either the tax laws are going to stay the same, or they're going to change, or they're going to sunset. One of those three things is coming up, and it's important for us to start looking at those different options to better understand what we can do today to take advantage of that.
And let's talk about this dollars to donuts too, because we've all been talking about sunsetting for a long time. Here's the real, let's say these tax brackets go up another 2%, right? So if you're in the 20 or 22, 2% higher, right? So now you're maybe from 22 to 24. Let's just call it $100,000. That's another $2,000 in taxes. Do you want to subtract $2,000 from what you took home the last couple of years?
No.
That's what we're really talking about.
No, you don't. And what's even scarier is right now they're talking about potential changes to capital gains. They're taking a careful look. Listen, the government understands, they're not doing anything about it yet, but they understand that the money that's being spent at the government level, that our deficit is out of control. And they're looking for all of these ways that they could potentially stop the bleeding. And not even fixing the problem necessarily, just slowing down the growth of the deficit.
Right, and we've seen this movie over and over again, literally through the centuries.
Right.
Oh, we need more, so let's just tax our people more and tax our people more. We're going to talk about that. You were talking about the silent tax on capital gains, that if you have investments that grow, they're talking about a taxation even without realization, right? Without even selling them. Tim, we got 30 seconds. The retirement blueprint before we go today.
This is your opportunity to look back at what you haven't done and turn over a new page, to make a decision today, to call, sit down with us, claim a spot, to let us design your very own retirement blueprint, to get you on the path to making sure your retirement is going to work.
Tim Lofton, thank you very much. We're going to be back again next week, but you need to get started on your own retirement blueprint. There is no cost, there is no obligation. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week.